And we're back. I'm now joined by Jake and Helen from Grey Alien Games. You may know them as the developers of Regency Solitaire, which we'll get to a bit. But they are here and spectacularly dressed to show you Shadowhand, their new game, which is a card game, am I right?
Yes,
about highwaymen, which explains why you were dressed as highwaymen and
that's
women.
Right. Yes, that's right.
In the spirit of which, I'm just going to quietly don this.
That's better.
So how's your show going? Actually, I should probably start by just saying, like, you've been here only a couple of hours, you have people through mentioned playing the game. How's it been so far?
Really good, actually.
Yeah?
People seem to be enjoying the game. We've put a lot of new features in it since we last had people test it out at a show,
right.
So we're really getting some great feedback, and yeah, people seem to be enjoying it and also getting the point of it, and enjoying the story, enjoying the characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going really well.
How big a deal is getting feedback in an event like this as a game developer?
It is good. It is pretty important because, for a start, you can watch people and see where they stumble and where you might need a tutorial or where something's not clear. But you can also just ask people where do they think the game might go next. You know, what are they expecting to see next, and so on. And which bits do they enjoy and didn't, and all of that stuff soaks in. You know, plus we make notes and go back, and you don't necessarily want to do everything everyone tells you, of course, but you look for the commonality, so that's been really useful.
Presumably the point of dressing like a highwayman is they have to do what you tell them.
I'm not too aggressive with that sort of thing.
Certainly.
I could be, but we've had a constant throughput of people on the stand, and it's been really good. And also, this zone it's not too loud, so that's quite good as well for us.
Yeah.
So we can actually talk, because we find that people, when they come to talk to indie developers, they want to talk to the indie developers and then find out the story behind the games and everything else. So it's good to be able to do that, though we lose our voice eventually. So.
Well, before voices are lost, let's jump into the game, and you can bring it to the internet. Explain.
So here we are. This is our character Shadowhand. We'll just jump straight into our first level here. I'll just read the story out to you. Halt, who goes there? I'm a gentlewoman, in trouble, sir. Pray identify yourself. I must know with whom I speak before I bring you into my confidence. Madam, my name is Lord Fleetwood. I own these woods and other lands hereabouts, and I assure you that I will assist you in any manner you desire. Your coach is in a sorry state. What is your requirement? A clean coat or a fresh carriage? Lord Fleetwood, I thank you most sincerely. I'm Lady Cornelia Dartmoor. I need neither cloak nor carriage, but I would have your pistol. My companion and I were ambushed, and now she is gone. I fear for her safety, and I must find her. So this is just setting up the story. Having a bit of a mouse problem.
Interesting.
Oh yes. Never mind.
Just press escape.
We'll just carry on through like that.
It's a screen bounds issue there.
Okay, so Lord Fleetwood very kindly given us a pistol, and now we can start to play.
Okay, so
perhaps I'll carry on, and Jake can describe a little bit of what's going on.
So the basic mechanics are actually the same idea as Regency Solitaire. So what happens is you have a card at the bottom, see Helen's has a 1, then you can put a higher or lower number card on top, and you're trying to build up a sequence of cards, and if you get a longer sequence you can build up a combo and earn more gold and so on. That's the basic mechanic, but what we've done is used it in a sort of very different way, which you'll see on the next level. So if we get Helen to sort of finish this level off, here we go.
So the levels are set solitaire challenges, is that right? They're not randomly generated, or? They're
not randomly generated, no. We've crafted each level and made each one a different puzzle, and there are different kind of mechanics we introduce over time that keep things fresh and interesting. So what happens now is you encounter your first enemy and get to have a fight with them. But this is what's very different from any other solitaire game out there. This is more like dualitaire, because what happens is you play against an enemy AI, and as you get runs of cards, you charge up your weapons and can attack the enemy. So Helen's going to try to charge up the pistol that she got.
So that's a run of 4. And then,
now she can fire and blast that rogue, but then it's his go. He didn't do anything this time.
Actually.
Sometimes they get a good run, but they didn't this time.
Right. So in this instance, then
it is. The enemy having a go.
It's not like a standalone solitaire challenge. It is an AI-driven battle. Yeah.
If you think about Puzzle Quest, that was a match 3 game which was driving a sort of combat engine and an adventure. This is very similar, but using this solitaire style mechanic. And that's never been done before. So what happens is in turn-based combat, you'd roll a die or dice, right?
Yeah.
And we've replaced that die rolling with basically getting runs of cards. And if you get a big enough run of card, you build up an attack combo, which is like a critical hit. And if you get a bad run of cards, that's like having a miss.
Okay.
But you also have to think about how you've left the cards so that you don't want the enemy to get a good run after you. So Helen's defeated them now, and we can
getting to loot his stuff.
We get some loot.
So one of the things that we really enjoy is RPGs. So we wanted to bring a bit of the RPG world into card games, basically. And so basically, as you go along, you're going to play these games, play these levels, and get lots of nice gold and weapons as you go. In addition to that, you're going to get to check out this shop area. At the moment, we've just got this one weapon that we've just obtained from the rogue there, so she gets to carry that.
Just press escape, Helen, if you can't get up there. Yeah. So we've got story on every single level. Not everyone reads stories. Some people whiz through them. Some people love them. A lot of people really like the Regency Solitaire story.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like with Regency Solitaire, I suppose is the kind of the origin of this idea of combining, just adding elements to Solitaire, right? Like Solitaire, easily the probably most installed game in the history of PC gaming, I imagine, next to Minesweeper.
Yeah.
But like, so where did this idea come from to start adding now a battle system, previously a narrative, to something that's so sort of ubiquitous?
Right, well, the Solitaire and Winners is a different style of Solitaire. There's actually a lot of different styles, which not everyone realises. And the Regency Solitaire style was out there, but we added a whole bunch of power-ups and a story to it because we just thought it would make it more interesting to go with the varied layouts. But what we wanted to do was move away from a more of a casual game into a more of a core audience. So we had to think of some way to really change things up. And apart from the sort of inventory system, this bright idea I suddenly got one day was to make this combat system, the dueling Solitaire. And that is, as far as I know, never been done before. And it really adds a whole new sort of level of strategy and challenge to the game, especially when you've got all these different cards, collectible cards, you can equip your character with. Different outfits, different weapons, bombs and potions, special abilities, active and passive. So there's a whole load of sort of kind of deck building that goes on behind the scenes to make sure you're prepared for the normal card play levels, which are where you gather resources, and the battle levels in between as well.
So is that is dueling always against the AI, or is it possible to play competitive dueling Solitaire?
Interesting you should ask that. I think we've been asked that quite a lot of times. Now, basically, at the moment it's AI in this game, but if this game does well, there's definitely a possibility we could open that up and turn it into a two-player, multiplayer thing. The problem is, from a programming perspective, multiplayer is quite a can of worms to get into, so we need to just check that people groove to this idea, and we hope they will, we think they will, and then there's a lot of possibilities.
So tell me a little bit more about your background as game developers, because both this project and the one that preceded it are so unusual, right, in terms of not only the mechanics and the idea to take something like Solitaire and expand it, but also the setting and the tone. But I can't think of very many sort of Georgian video games, right? So what's the genesis of all of that?
Well, going back a bit, I mean, I've been an indie developer for sort of 11 years, and most of the time I was making download casual games for casual portals, and I actually got a job in Canada to work for Big Fish Games, and that was good, and I learned a lot of stuff there. But when we came back to England, we wanted to sort of rekindle our interest in British history, because we're history buffs. We like watching Downton Abbey, Poldark. We like visiting Bath and sort of museums. We love that sort of thing. And Helen came up with the idea for Regency Solitaire, and as soon as she told it to me, I was like, oh, that would totally work. Because card games were an extremely popular pastime back then. So we combined the two of them, our love for history and my sort of casual gaming development skills. But this one, as I say, is an evolution of the idea with the combat and so on. And we've just gone back in time. Not a lot of people know this, but this is actually a prequel to Regency Solitaire.
Like a narrative prequel?
It is. There's a lady in Regency Solitaire called Lady Fleetwood, who's in her 60s. And you may notice at the beginning of this story, Shadowhand was talking to Lord Fleetwood. And that's because Shadowhand is actually Lady Fleetwood as a 19-year-old.
She was a very minor character in the previous game, But she just mentioned something about having exciting youth, and so literally the Regency period, we sort of set the previous game in 1812. So we thought, right, if we go back to 1770 when she was a young woman, what was she getting up to? And it turns out she was getting up to all sorts of things, basically. We're also trying to bring some sort of modern things into the past. So some things that people talk about a lot these days is sort of online safety and things to do with internet dating and things. I thought, well, how can we make a plot about that in the 1770s?
Okay.
We've managed to do that, I think. We'll see whether people find it entertaining or not. But
so hang on. So a plot about the safety of internet dating in the 1770s.
Well, you didn't have the internet, but you might have some sort of gentleman suitors who you've never perhaps met in person who might invite you on dates. You might need your friend to go and accompany you because you don't know if it's safe or not.
Right, you might correspond with them. And
you might correspond with them, and your letters might be slightly scandalous, perhaps.
A scandalous letter.
Scandalous letters, yeah. So the game starts out very much with that kind of fairly personal, small-scale story, but then we realise there's a lot more at stake, and actually there's some quite corrupt individuals, smugglers, people running all kinds of gangs.
Just like Tinder.
And basically, Lady Cornelia Dartmoor or Shadowhand has to up her game basically and fight more and more senior bosses and foes and sort out the corruption in her village so that she can take on her true
the
role.
The only way there is to sort out corruption by solitaire fighting.
Well, I think part of it as well is that a lot of in coming up with these characters we thought, well, in 1812 what could Bella really do? How could she really influence people? And she does it by holding a ball, which might seem a little bit superficial, but that's something that would be achievable for a woman in those times. When we went back to these times we thought, well, what could she do? Maybe she wouldn't be able to do very much, so we thought, right, we'll give her an alter ego so she can dress in men's clothes or in disguise, and then she'll have a bit more agency in the world and be able to fight and duel and so forth.
She can in fact get a beard.
Yeah, she can have a beard, and if we can, perhaps I should have a. See if we can if we can bring these.
I presume that's also a first for a solitaire game.
I think so.
A bearded, yeah. I mean, you can have a nice waistcoat.
Fabulous.
There's a lot of different clothing items you can apply to the character.
I think I might
different weapons.
Just equip my sword there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do you build the kind of, not just like, I mean obviously we talked about the narrative arc of the thing, but how do you build the kind of, you have some experience with this Regency solitaire, but like a difficulty arc and challenging people in different ways using those basic mechanics of solitaire?
Well, the thing is the layouts really affect the difficulty. So certain layouts you can clear all the cards and it's very easy, and other layouts it's very difficult depending on how you sort of stack the cards and so on. Plus, as you see, we've got things like keys and locks, and we had regal locks in Regency Solitaire and bow cards, and there's a hidden item behind there again that Helen can try to collect, a bomb, which you can then throw at the next enemy. So the layouts are really how you do it. Plus then you set challenges on top of that, like you need to collect a certain amount of gold, find certain items, get a certain amount of stars for beating the levels. So you can ramp those up. And I've actually built an AI test routine which tests every single level hundreds of times and works out the difficulty curve for each level, and then I can then structure the game based upon that. Plus we've got all kinds of different, that was Regency, but this level we've got the combat and all the different strategies you can employ there. Different weapons have different effects, different clothing protects you against different items. You can select what consumables you've got. You can build a deck of ability cards to take with you into each level. Actually, that's a bit like Plants vs Zombies. You know, at the beginning of the level, you can select a deck of sort of equipment you want to use. So there's a lot there. There's more to sort of balance and test in this game than Regency, but it's going to be really good fun as a result, and people will be able to play it in different ways, but it will get hard. Regency Solitaire got hard at the end, and there was even a hard mode which was preposterously hard but possible for the patient.
My experience of Regency Solitaire was that everybody who knew about the game and played it loved it because it was so unusual. What was your experience of getting that game out there? Because again, it is such a, when you say to somebody, we're going to do a Jane Austen style drama through the medium of solitaire. I mean, there are a lot of games at this show, but this is nonetheless totally unique. Like, what was your experience of getting out in front of people, and what was your experience of the reaction?
Well, we actually aimed it at the casual market, and we launched Regency Solitaire on places like Big Fish Games, Game House, iWin and so on, and it actually did very well on there, super good reviews, very popular, but we didn't get any kind of traction in the press. But when it came out on Steam, we did, because Steam is this kind of weird validator for indie games. When you get on Steam, suddenly people pay attention. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. And then, you know, we got some very positive press, but it hasn't actually sold as well on Steam as on the casual portals. And I think that's just because a lot of people look at it and go, hey, I'm not into Regency romance. But when they play it and somebody tells them, seriously, give this game a go, they're like, oh, wow, this is actually really, really good. And that's why we knew we had to change the theme up to one which would work for Steam and add in new elements like the combat and new depth.
So the combat, in a sense, is a way of getting closer to audience expectations of what a game is.
Yeah.
Right, that's interesting.
It's also to do with adding a bit more depth as well, because what you got out of Regency Solitaire was the builder game of building a ballroom and fulfilling your destiny and the story arc that went with that. But that was basically all that you did apart from playing Solitaire. And we tried to make it rich and interesting. But with this game, because you have an inventory, you can collect things, you have a lot more strategy to do with how you equip your character. We're just basically trying to add a lot more depth and interest. We really love RPG games, so maybe trying to bring in a bit of that idea of being able to dress how you like, equip yourself how you like.
I mean, I'm a big fan of things like Darkest Dungeon, Dark Souls, The Witcher. All of these have had sort of influences on me as I sort of go through the design and plan the combat stuff. So, yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up sort of how Regency Solitaire did with on Steam versus in a casual portal, because it stands out to me as an example of how increasingly meaningless the phrase casual actually is. Because Solitaire is not an easy game. It's not, casual doesn't mean easy in that sense. And if you're very, very good at Solitaire, particularly those later levels of Regency Solitaire, then you've clearly got a really good mind for puzzle solving and to logic and
you can't beat it unless you figure all that stuff out.
I think what it is though is it's accessible. I think that's the main point. It's a fairly simple mechanic. It's easy to learn. Yeah. But I mean, like there's that old sort of gaming catchphrase. It's easy to learn but hard to master. But I think in terms of gameplay, I mean, really you just need to be able to click a mouse. So anybody can give it a try. So I think in that sense, a lot of people who would otherwise call themselves non-gamers, might give this a try, or people who are just starting out as well.
The average playtime on Steam is massive. I mean, we've got reviews and people are playing it 50 hours, 100 hours, because they can replay it over and over as well.
Solitaire, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's 15 hours to beat the normal campaign, then you can go through on hard. And these people, they're playing a casual game, but they're playing it in hardcore sort of sessions that last for hours and hours, or don't go to sleep and keep going.
It's fascinating that it has sort of managed to sort of strike a chord with people, because ultimately you're kind of, and now I guess you're introducing new mechanics on top of what is a system everybody understands.
Yeah.
Do you think, is there a challenge for you guys in terms of, from both angles, you've got maybe a core gamer audience that is going to be reintroduced to Solitaire in this way, but you've also got a Solitaire audience that's going to be kind of moving towards more sort of traditional game mechanics?
Well,
do you have a kind of a plan in mind for kind of teaching, I guess, and so bringing those two groups together?
Well, that's the tricky bit with this game. I mean, we don't want to throw the Regency Solitaire fans under the bus, so to speak, but this isn't specifically aimed at them, to be honest. I think some of them who liked RPGs and more complex, games will hopefully get into this, and other ones may not. The combat may turn them off. But we just want to introduce a whole new audience to this. If anyone plays card games, collectible card games on Steam, we want them to try this. If they play RPGs or turn-based combat games, we want them to try this. Even visual novel fans. The question is whether all of those sort of different elements come together in something that enough people want to try, and that's the risk as an indie you're always taking, really. Does it resonate with a wide enough audience that you can pay to make your next game?
With that in mind, has today given you a sense of that? Have people seemed to...
Well, people love it, and we exhibited last year at a show, and this game's a lot further along, and people are really enjoying the inventory aspect a lot. I mean, you get great feedback at shows. Ultimately, though, the sort of crucible of game dev is... Helen's bombed it out.
We've killed it.
I've killed it.
She used a cheat key and used the thing.
Cheat key
game development, everybody.
Yes.
So we feel that
restart.
It is very positive, but you can't tell from a show really how well it's going to do until it actually comes out on Steam and people start buying.
Best of luck with it, and thank you so much for coming on to talk to us about it.